Hello.
Hi, everybody.
This is my friend Elías.
Hi.
And his daughter.
And this is Karen. Yes.
And in the background we have Cove Presbyterian Church. I go to Cove Presbyterian Church, and I started going here because the acoustics in this building. Hi. The acoustics in this building are amazing, and I did another post a few weeks ago about the power of acoustics and harmonics and the power of the voice to fly. So anyway, that's what brought me to Cove. It's a really sort of, I would say...
And the music this morning was really
great.
It was nice. I enjoyed it. Yeah, you guys. Heather was singing there with Beth Neville, I think, and it's just great to be here. Yeah.
So, Elías is the director of the Ixtatán Foundation, and I wanted to do a little talk with him today because he's visiting Charlottesville, but he just moved back to the States, and he has a really cool story that has led him to this point. And the point I want to make to anybody watching is that your path that unfolds that may not be traditional, may not check all the right boxes, that it's okay to trust it, because that is something I have really wrestled with. And so I'm wearing a huipil from San Mateo Ixtatán. I went to
my hometown.
Elías' hometown.
I come from there. I'm not wearing this is not the traditional, but next time I should wear my traditional San Mateo garments.
And I went because I had just decided not to go to graduate school for vocal performance at Boston Conservatory, and I was having a little bit of a crisis of faith in a way, and I didn't know that I still had time to go to grad school. This is sort of like, looking back, I can see it now, but I just thought I had closed a door, and I had to basically say goodbye to music. And I happened to meet Beth Neville Evans, who...
You went down there to teach music,
well,
right?
So
you were teaching music.
So I basically declined Boston Conservatory and was like, oh no, now what? And I met Beth Neville, and I was telling her how much I wanted to travel and wanted to see, did I want to teach music? And she said, well, how about you go to San Mateo in like 2 months and start a choir? And I was like, I don't know where that is, but okay. So I went, and that juncture was a very defining step for me. And now at 37, I can see that as a strength, to have had that experience of living in another culture, living in a more rural area, sort of all the things that come with adventuring and immersing yourself outside of your path. But it's been a long road to be able for me to see it as a strength and not feel like it's been a liability. And so it's even a more recent feeling that, like, you know what? And this is the point of going on here. The world is not suffering from an excess of creativity. We need musicians who bring in their gifts, even if you don't have certain, degrees behind your name. So that's what I have to say. And I thought Elías could tell some of his story, because it's really cool.
Yeah. So
and we've got visitors. And we have Jordan, who
hi.
You were what were you?
President
of the Ixtatán Foundation.
She also spent a year in Guatemala recently. You came back in June,
May.
July?
Yeah,
something like that. So it was also like, and maybe you should say this, but like Jordan also like basically came to visit San Mateo when you were finishing high school, I believe, and that was also like a defining moment for a lot of people that I have seen who have visited San Mateo and Guatemala for the last 10 years, and I run into them again, and they're talking about, like I never thought I would, this one trip or this special event or whatever in my life would, be a defining moment.
Tell us how you came to the United States originally.
Yeah, so originally,
if you don't mind.
No, I don't mind. I've been telling this story. So at age 16, I wanted to come to the U.S. for 2 years to make money and save money to go to high school, because back in my hometown, we didn't have a high school until the Ixtatán Foundation created one, but that was in 2005.
Just to say bye real quick.
And bye.
We're at church. People are saying goodbye.
Yes. And so I came to the U.S. Illegally. How many years was that ago? Like 15 years ago, I guess. So I crossed Mexico, came into the U.S. I knew that I could save enough money so that I could go back. But one of the defining moments in my life was that I was working at age 16 at a chicken plant, but I wanted to learn English. So I went to school in the evenings and to a local ESL program. And at one moment, my English teacher said, "Why are you here at age 16 working at a chicken plant? You should be in school." So I was like, "I am working at a chicken plant because I want to go to school. I want to save money and go back to Guatemala and go to school." She was like, "Why don't you go here? Why don't you go to school here?" I was like, "Can you do that? Without documents or money?" She was like, "Sure." So like the next week I was enrolled in school. Point being, that was, people who cross your path and trusting. Of course, for a lot of people, the fact that I decided to go to school here, and just it was something that was especially for people that I was living with from Guatemala in our little community in a community in Georgia. That was something unthinkable. Like you don't do that. Like, you come here to work and then make money and go back.
Because a lot of people leave the area, and the reason the Ixtatán Foundation has there's a lot to say about the foundation, but there wasn't a school. This was a very hard hit area by the Civil War.
36 years. My grandfathers were killed, during the Civil War.
Right, which only officially ended in 1996.
96, yeah.
And I was there in 2006.
Yeah, so it's 10 years.
And this is a pivot in conversation, but I think also speaking to the universality of the world, how many people when I chose to go were so scared for me.
Oh yeah.
So scared.
Yeah.
And we're doing a Facebook Live, so they would say things like, "It's so dangerous, be really careful out there." And, we're talking about, this is Beth Neville, the director, the founder of the foundation. Hello. We were talking about trusting your path, and he just shared about how he went to school. He got here and left San Mateo, worked at a plant, got himself into school. And I was saying how when I went there, everybody was scared. People get scared. People get scared, and they think about the other people, the sort of like,
ones who you can see in TV or you hear about because they're
criminals or something, and they figure it's going to be unsafe, and there's a lot to talk about here because we've got this migrant caravan, and everybody's so fearful about all these people coming north, and like there's just So you put yourself through school, which is great.
Basically trusted, instinct in people who I crossed paths with, and so I went to school, ended up graduated from college in the U.S., then went back to Guatemala to work for the foundation for 10 years, and I've met so many wonderful people during this whole 10 years. But the point being is that we sometimes we just need to get ourselves out there and just trust that something good's going to happen, and that if you're set on what you want to do, you're out there and you're going to meet wonderful people, and you're going to go on and you're going to do great things.
So not everybody who leaves to come to the States to work ends up putting themselves through school.
No.
How common is that?
You can't go to school if you don't have, especially now. I can't imagine somebody doing the same thing like I did back then and going to that would be unthinkable right now.
What?
A lot of things have changed because of the rules have changed, and American people are also more afraid of doing more for the immigrant people. I feel like, because I don't know, everything in the news and everything that you hear about, it's just like maybe they're not they're afraid, I feel like.
Yeah. What do you want people to know as the news starts highlighting all these people migrating north? There's a lot of fear around it. It seems like from the headlines, there seems to be a lot of sensationalism. What would you say to people watching the news?
Yeah. So these people aren't coming here to invade. They're coming here to apply for an asylum because they're fleeing violence. But more than violence, they're fleeing lack of opportunity in our countries in Central America. Up until 2005, in my region of 65,000 people, we didn't have a high school.
I was the first music teacher.
Yeah, 2005.
2006, yeah.
So
maybe I wasn't the first, but I stayed there, yeah.
That's just something that when I tell people that here, it's like, what? You didn't have a
No, and I
high
don't.
school?
I don't think people really
And
understand
so-
how hard that is to get an education. Because if you're from an area that doesn't have a school, you also have to have the money to go live in another town.
Yeah,
To then
move
be able to
away
go
from
back and
home.
forth and pay room and board and tuition, which means that only some of the boys were getting educated. The girls were staying home, or not, but generally.
Generally, and
And-
also like in our countries in Central America, only 20% of our budget, educational budget, government budget goes to secondary education, which is middle school and high school. So we don't have schools.
And so the Ixtatán Foundation does what now?
We build schools, and we implement an education model called project-based learning, adapted to the Mayan context, so that school is attractive to students, and they'll stay there, and they'll have an opportunity to go to school, and it's meaningful to them because it's also bilingual. That's one
really
thing.
important, actually. I went there. I was like, "Oh, I speak Spanish." No, the kids didn't even speak Spanish yet. They spoke Chuch.
and-
So I'd be like, "Stand up," and they wouldn't do it. And I'm like, "They don't respect me." But it's like, no, they didn't understand me.
I was
It
in El
like a lot
Salvador
lost in translation.
last week. I was in El Salvador. I was sharing at the Central American Donors Forum, and I said, I didn't like going to school when I was growing up, and I figured out that I didn't like going to school not because I didn't like learning, but because it was in a foreign language. I didn't speak Spanish until I was like, I don't know, maybe in 6th grade. So bilingual school, and so that's just what
So
we
the
do. We try
Ixtatán
to-
Foundation started by building a school in San Mateo, but it's grown. And how many schools are you now supporting?
Well, we're supporting 7 schools.
In
now
what areas?
In Guatemala. Mostly San Mateo, but we're also supporting a school in Barias, Huehuetenango. Our scholarship program covers basically Huehuetenango, Huehuetenango City, Santa Bárbara, San Sebastián, Coatán, Santa Eulalia, Barias, San Mateo, Mentón, that area. So the impact is still going. Yeah.
Why should somebody in the United States care about the Ixtatán Foundation?
Because we're out there on the ground creating those opportunities that are making our young people in Guatemala flee and come to the U.S. and try to get those opportunities here. So you're making
the opportunities there for them to be there.
Yeah. So no one. I mean, if they want to come here, fine. That's their choice. But a lot of people don't want to come. They're fleeing the lack of opportunities. So like the caravan that's coming up right now, they're basically fleeing lack of opportunities and violence and everything in Central America.
Because if you can't feed your family, like, what are you going to do?
Yeah.
And I have to say, being down in San Mateo is amazing because, there's so much of a family culture. There's just like so much richness in Guatemala that when I'm there, I'm like, I want to be there. I really would love to live there, but you have to have a way to live there. And I have the privilege of having the earning capacity here in the States to have some savings to go be there. But if you don't have that, what is there? And what's an average salary in Guatemala for, I don't know, a teacher maybe?
$500 a year?
$500 a year.
That's basically.
So I think it's really important as we look at the elections on Tuesday. I don't want to not to make this totally political, but we're looking at headlines that are creating a sense of the other, and these people are our neighbors.
I just want to finish by saying that many people come here because this is where we can see hopes of opportunities, but they don't have to come here. And if they do, let's welcome them, but let's create those opportunities back home for them too.
Thanks for the Facebook Live. Oh yeah, hello everybody. Hello. Oh, Mako. Hello, Luis. Megan. Hello, you guys. Thanks for joining us. Thanks for the little hello. Thank you, Elias. Until you're back in Charlottesville.
Yes.
A little hello from Cove Presbyterian Church and the quest for harmony and the good things in life.
Follow your instincts.
Follow your path.
Follow your path. Just do it.
Goodbye.